Lead management, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I need more leads. No, you need social skills, you bitch.
That's gonna be a good one. Like 15 to 20 episodes ago, we talked about lead management and like this whole process, right? Like it hasn't been that long ago within the past couple of months here, but it's coming up again as just like, hey, you got leads. You're just not doing what you got to do with the leads. Here's a not so subtle reminder. You probably have leads. You're just not handling them well and turning them into proper conversations to generate revenue.
I think a lot of people just over-engineer the crap out of it. I think we're in a drought of social awareness and social skills more than anything. And I am proof of that because you put me in a room and people ask me questions. I'll answer the question, but then I forget to ask them questions sometimes because I probably don't want to really be there. And it comes across as, they're like, you can kind of see they're like, you can ask me about my career, my family. I'm like, I really don't care about your personal life. Like, what are your unique autism interests? But I can't ask that on someone's first meeting. So I'm like, so unless you come with some niche information, I don't really care to be there. I'm thinking about all the other things I should be doing, but I can only imagine that, especially with the prevalence of people that are working from home now, the amount of social sparring that people get to engage in is just dramatically lower. You got a kid. How is that social world? Is that something that you see, or are they pretty socially agile? Like,
no, they're not fucking socially agile. Like they barely know how to communicate. Their phones, they're the main driver of communication. It's just that part's wild to me, but like it's funny. I find myself doing what my father used to do of like when I was a kid. And the reality is, for example, when I was younger, my dad wasn't driving me around everywhere. Like it was either I got there on my bike, my feet, my rollerblades, or I didn't go. That was it.
I actually like that.
And magically, I still had to be home to eat dinner, but I had no watch, no phone, no nothing. And I just knew when to be home. Kids these days, it's like, hey, I need a ride too. And everything is a 30-minute plus drive away. It's an hour round trip one way. They don't have any semblance of freaking time and like what that looks like. Like it's just, there's a lot of stuff that's very different. And my daughter's like, oh, hey, I need her. I'm like, I'm not giving you a ride somewhere. Like, no, figure it out. Well, it's 35 minutes driving, so I can't walk there. Like, yeah, so don't go there. Go somewhere else. Well, then there's nothing else to do. And I'm like, when I was a kid, I'm like, I know times are different, but their ability to communicate when they're next to each other, they're so awkward. So awkward.
When they're next to each other? What do you mean?
When kids are next to each other and they have to communicate, they don't know how to have a conversation. It's super weird. It makes me feel uncomfortable, and it's hard to make me feel uncomfortable.
What do they do? What do you mean they don't communicate? What do they do?
They don't know how to interact. It's like, hi.
That's crazy. What, like, do they just text each other while they sit next to each other?
Basically.
But they're sitting right next to each other. Why don't they just reach over and say something? Well, it's actually interesting because I think this really does highlight why it's important to either stay involved in literature or have a kid, right? Because you're going to see different things emerge and your strategies and tactics do have to change over time. And so I think that in light of what you just shared, I almost want to recant my lead management general perspective on, I don't think communication has to be done face-to-face as much anymore. It almost seems like if you're trying to sell to the younger, more impressionable crowd who may have less disposable income, but more open-minded versus the people that have been around in life a little bit more and they have a sensitive bullshit meter and they need more convincing, like your follow-up process should probably evolve substantially. And we're seeing that a lot with social media marketing right now, where people are selling through entertainment and cultivating interest by, and if you haven't listened to the AIDA model that we kind of talk about, I think it really makes a lot of sense to examine what medium and what population, and zeroing in on that is more important now than ever because Gen Z is starting to have more disposable income. And I assume that everyone listens to this as a millennial that's starting to say, well, back in my day, if you're not from this century, you're the right demo. If you are not from this century, welcome, because you're about to get some of that unk wisdom.
It's important to understand your ICP, right? Like who is the ideal person? Where are they hanging out? What are the things that tend to motivate them? And how do they communicate? What are the words that they use? Like that stuff's important. So sure, if you're trying to get somebody who's 18 to buy something from you versus somebody who's 60 to buy something from you, it does very much need to be two absolutely different paths, like 1 billion%. But nonetheless, you got to follow up. So good example. I'm about a year-ish into jujitsu, and my gym, he's a jujitsu guy and he does IT, but he has no semblance of marketing. Website's terrible. Like just all this stuff is pretty bad.
He's an IT guy. What do you mean?
No, well, that's the thing. Like he's an IT guy. He supports IT infrastructure, but he has no idea about any of the other stuff.
Oh, wow.
You know, so he handles security, right? Like he's on Linux and things like that. He's not, you put him in Meta Business Manager and he's like, I don't even know where to begin, which it is confusing in there. But
yeah,
you know, we're going through and website and this and that and connecting and Rise CRM and all the things and slowly working on stuff. And I'm like, hey, summer, we should do an unlimited pass offering for students and, you know, people home. Let's do something like a $249, $299 for all you unlimited for 2 months, which both of those prices are cheaper than his normal unlimited price.
Yeah.
Get some people in the door and like you get 2.5 months ish, depending upon when you start, and then go from there. And he's like, oh, well, some schools charge, you know, $250 a month. Like this feels so cheap. Well, people, and I'm like, the whole summer. And I'm like, yeah, like they charge $250 a month. That's fine. But you're trying to attract 20-year-olds that have no money.
100%.
Like get them in here and guess what happens? If they've come here, they've had some fun. When they come home, they'll do some drop-ins. And when they come back home, if they don't move away, you're probably the gym of choice because you've been the one they've come to for a couple of summers. And that's some of the stuff where we need to worry less about the numbers and in terms of the revenue. Obviously don't do it at a loss.
Yeah.
But understand why you're trying to acquire that person.
Yeah.
That person doesn't make or break your business though. Because that's maybe 2 months out of the year, which is 1/6 or 17% of time. If you don't solve the other 83%, who gives a shit about the 17%?
Yeah.
We're having this big conversation and it's like, oh, well, you know, and I'm like, I hear you, but that's like me saying, hey, which one of these submissions should I use at this position? And then you say to me, how often do you make it to that position? And I go, I don't know, 1 out of 20 times. And you're then like, you should probably worry about making it to that position more often versus figuring out when you occasionally get there, what to do when you get there. And I'm like, well, yeah, but my ego says I need to know more submissions, not I need to know how to get to a place of being able to submit somebody. I go, it's the same thing for you. You're like, more leads, more this, more that all the time. Big picture, slow down for a moment. Let's think of the foundational things we need to do to solve the problem. And then we can go from there. It's the same thing here. If you're not following up with your damn leads, I don't care if they're 18 or 80, you're wasting money, time, effort, energy, all the things.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know, it's even more so than when we think about people that want to build long-term sustainable businesses. If you want a business that's going to last you 10 years, you got to think a little bit in that domain, like maybe 5% of your thought process should go towards that. Because if you show up year by year, you're going to play year by year. And if that's going to influence, and there is something to be agile. But I think that when people think about lead management and even, you know, to ground this in the conversation of like what's the follow-up? Sure. Do $250 for 3 months or 2 months, you know, basically buy one, get one is what it sounds like, is a different way to structure that. Even if you have the capacity, you should for sure do that. And if you don't, find a way to make it happen, because the people and the young people that you come across, and I think this is such an underserved demographic because people dismiss them as not having financial means. But when we think about who's going to be buying from you in 5 to 10 years, you have the opportunity to cultivate so much goodwill in that community. And I mean, if you take someone that has, you know, maybe no income and they can't afford it, but they're having a rough time and they really want to try something, and you can see it's meaningful, like finding a way to give them some kind of complimentary, or like get them a break. I remember when I was in college, I was paying $80 a month for my CrossFit gym membership. And the only income I had at the time, because I was a collegiate athlete, was like $300 and some odd dollars, the Montgomery GI Bill. Shout out to Uncle Sam. Deployed veteran giving me $300 a month. That's sweet. But yeah, I mean, like I was paying 25% of my income was going to a CrossFit gym. And I was like, oh, that's so much money at the time. And in hindsight, like when I opened a CrossFit gym, I was charging $135 a month. I don't think it's inflation. It was just because I was doing the numbers. And all that to say, I think that people will step over long-term, and the goodwill nature will do more for your business than collecting, you know, 1/10 of the people that come across your door and collecting full rack. So there are long-term payoffs for doing things like that.
Well, it's about understanding why you're doing a thing. One client working with, and they continue to say that their webinars are not converting. They continue to say the webinars are not working. And I'm like, you're 100% right. The leads that we generated in the week leading up to the webinar, and then within 5 to 7 days of the finish of the webinar, so a 2-week window, those people in that 2-week time on average are not converting, not at any measurable means in terms of success. The crazy thing is last week, 3 people who attended a webinar back in February converted. And they drove the ROAS of the February conversion point, or that webinar, if we attributed it to that, to now over a 5x. It's like, well, no, that's not what made them convert. And I'm like, all right, sure. But what made them convert was continued emails and everything there. And listen, I'm all for like, hey, what makes them convert versus what makes them become a lead? That's a really solid conversation. And I'm fine to look at it in either lens, as long as we're consistently looking at it in that lens, not when it's convenient.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, it highlighted very much where you generate the lead, understanding your reasoning behind it. You got to continue to nurture. Sometimes going out there with the intention to just generate leads and not generate sales is not a bad marketing campaign. Now, it can't always be your marketing campaign, but generating leads at an inexpensive cost that you can nurture and convert when the time is right is a very valid strategy, as long as you have the nurture down. Not every single thing is I see it, I buy it, especially when we're talking hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of an expense. That was cool in 2016 when direct response was a thing. It's just not today. The buying cycle is typically longer.
The higher the price point, the more the value proposition has to make sense for people that have less means. So those are kind of the 3 things of, obviously price point's a consideration, the resources of the individual, and the meaningfulness of what it is, or the value proposition. The more you have to clarify it, the more buying friction there is, the same way that you have multiple clicks. And when people have to click 14 times, like, I'm annoyed. If I have to click more than twice to give you my money, I'll freak the fuck out. I'm not buying that shit. And then I just get petty, and then I'll start reporting your website. No, I'm kidding. I don't think you can do that anyway. $1 peptide courses, but anyways, so all that to say, it's just, I don't think it should be as transactional sometimes, to your point of what are you trying to get out of it? Like, what's the intent here? And I don't think that the people that are kind of the entrepreneurial lead syndrome, as you've coined it, I don't think that they have their eye on the horizon of what problems am I solving 3 years from now? Am I taking that temporary level of pain and maybe the potential minor losses to scaffold and build something that when it hits, it never misses, but people will hit a little bit, miss a little bit, hit a little bit, miss even more. And it creates this weird cycle of ups and downs, which is what we see a lot in gambling. And so I don't think that that's an appropriate business development strategy for anybody to, take a shot in the dark and then just let eventually the market conditions dictate the amount of success that you experience. You have to have a decision-making process in there that doesn't give up the long-term for the short, but also respects the immediate needs of the business and the health of the organization.
Understanding why you're doing a marketing campaign, tactic, strategy, whatever, is important. But also, when you generate the leads, you got to follow up with them the intended way. That's literally money sitting. I remember when I owned my gyms, the cost to acquire somebody at that time, like from an ad spend perspective, something like $700.
So what does that mean? So you spend $700 to get one lead, or one person
to create a conversion, a new client.
Okay. So you spend $700 and you get one new client in your gym. Are they personal training client or just like a gym member?
Personal training clients.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of those things where that's the thing I drilled in deep. Like, every time you don't call one of these people back, you could be 100% throwing away $700. And like, think of the money, and it's like $5, $10 a lead. Like, you're probably fine if you accidentally lose $5, $10. Like, it probably kind of gets annoying at like a $20 bill. You start misplacing hundreds, you get a little frustrated. Like, what the fuck? $700, you lose that. Like, you generally feel that. And I remember that being a big motivator to just go follow up to get them across the line. It wasn't a let me piss them off, but it was, hey, if it's not the right fit in the right time, just tell me and I'll leave you alone. But until you told me that, I'm going to continue to follow up, assuming you want some help.
Yeah. And it's interesting because now, you start getting into the cold DM strategy or like the follow-up sequence. Have you seen the guy High Ticket Swerve or Sales with Swerve or something like that?
No.
It's really entertaining, and I've recently stopped looking. I actually now will leave my phone in a different room, and if people need a hold of me, like I will have my watch, but I do that so I don't pull up my phone and scroll. Prior to that, though, prior to my impulse management,
I got a solid, a whole new solid navigation on my phone. It is, my phone is so boring to me now. All of my apps, I actually have to scroll to find the app that I want.
uh-huh.
And it's just wildly inefficient, it feels like. And the only apps I see anything on or can get through are like the 5 apps that I choose on my screen.
Uh-oh.
And my phone usage in 1 week, which I was like, I don't use my phone a lot. And I really don't. Like, compared to my wife, my daughter, I use it less than them.
Yeah.
My phone usage in 1 week, 60% down.
Just to be clear for the listeners, he has like 5 laptops running multiple instances of AI, so he's not screen free. We want to make that abundantly clear.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say I'm screen free. I'm trying to say I'm phone free.
Yeah. He's not doing as much mindless scrolling and stuff, for sure.
Yeah, no.
You know, and so, yeah, I think that's a great system. I fucking forgot what we were talking about.
You leave your phone in another room and you don't want to continue to scroll. You were talking about some guy on Instagram, the sales something.
Yeah. Sales with Swerve. So this guy he's cold calling it. I don't know if it's real or not. I think it is. But he'll call these guys and he'll be like, and he's like a weird, just like, you can tell. It almost looks like he did some cocaine. And he's just like, and he's like, shut up and listen here, dickhead. He does such a strong pattern interrupt. And the business owners are like, what? And he's like, listen here, bitch, put me on with the owner. And everyone's just like, I'm shocked. And he like kind of riles them up a little bit. And then he subverts it. He's like, you sound like a guy I want to do business with. Bring your fucking credit card and show up tomorrow. And the guy will book calls, and he does ad spend. Like he buys ads. But he'll get on the phone, do this completely wild, out-of-pocket shit, which is so left field of what you would expect from a telemarketer or someone calling you. and he actually converts them, and he produces all this content. And whether he does a good job or sales or not, I mean, like, I don't know his process, but I do know that he's had a lot of different voices on there, and I'm fairly certain he's actually doing these cold calls. So when it comes to getting through and doing things, like, to your point, right tool, right job, depending on what the nurture and the follow-up sequence looks like, don't be afraid to try new things. And, you know, transparently just be authentic. When you're annoyed, you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to try to sell you some shit. And if you don't want it, cool. You know, because you get to the no faster, or you intrigue someone enough to where they want to hear more about it, and you open the door, but you're not wasting time equivocating like, hey, how's your day going? Like, I don't fucking know you. I don't really care how your day is going. I want to know, is my thing interesting to you or not? Do you want more information? If not, cool, tell me to fuck off and I'll just leave. You know, and I think that there's something more refreshing in the nature of how everyone is kind of using all this AI stuff, and no one really knows what to trust anymore. And so the more rough around the edges you are, the more authentic it comes across, the more trustworthy. To the study that was published back in 2013, people that swear more are inherently more trusted because it's a general semblance of they're less filtered. And so they're more just kind of off the cuff. So I think that we'll see
it's not 100% across the board a thing. Just if you swear more, just saying that.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's just highly contextual.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, that's yeah, there's somebody that loves to drop the F-bomb for sure. And definitely not trustworthy, but you know, well, actually maybe their perception is, and he closed a lot. He was good at sales.
Yeah.
What I remember, you send a shirtless picture and someone buys your shit. So, you know, whatever. But yeah, to bring this back to leads and like kind of what the outreach process looks like and how to manage that, you just need a way. Again, and we've harped on this. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, make sure you subscribe and go find it. I think it's like in the 60s. We talk about lead management, like start with a spreadsheet. Just literally, you know, use a certain keyword in your text messages if you're texting people, and you know, that would be the keyword that you would search for in your search bar. And then you would see what the dates are and go back and scroll and, you know, find the people 3 months back and just keep turning them over. Hey, and you weren't ready before. Are you ready now? Does your life suck enough to want to take advantage of my shit or whatever? you know, because these people that are on your list, hopefully they've landed themselves there because they did have somewhat of a need of your services, or they expressed interest in some form, and maybe they weren't ready to purchase the first time. But I think it's never a complete no. It's just a matter of when it might be more appropriate or when they're more open-minded. You know, someone has a family member that, you know, they're not looking for caskets, and a family member passes, and now all of a sudden, you know, they're in the market. So you just don't know what's happening in life. And that's why the follow-up is so important. And we're not just discounting people because the circumstances in life weren't conducive to them engaging in your service.
100%. Follow up with the leads, understand why you're doing a marketing campaign thing in general. Don't just let them sit there dormant. Follow up, figure it out. It doesn't have to be automated in all the way. Like I would say for $100 a month and being able to guarantee automations across the board and stuff you don't want to do, pretty wise investment, but maybe you don't want to, and that's totally fine too. Don't throw that money down the drain, and don't throw that time down the drain by not following up and doing your job. So
one thing too, when you don't know because you've never calculated the value of what a potential lead is worth, go into your client list, and hopefully if you are listening to this, you do have a couple clients, and if you don't, like reach out. We'll happily sit down with you and spend a couple minutes trying to give you some ideas on how to get your first client if that's where you are. Join our school network. Like that's really where a lot of those conversations are rich, and why that exists. It's free. Get in there, ask questions, engage with the community. There's a lot of great coaches in there that are happy to help on top of our, you know, biased, admittedly, opinions. But yeah, I mean, I forget my train of thought. That's bad today.
Reach out if you need help getting some of those leads. And if you have some clients and you've acquired clients, then go back and look at the amount of time and potentially the amount of money you've invested to get those clients, and just do some quick math. If you've gotten 5 clients and you've spent the equivalent of $10,000 of money and time into it, well, hey, it's $2,000 per client acquisition to get that. And that's really the main thing, to understand what it currently costs. By the way, if it is costing you $2,000, whatever you're doing is not working. So don't keep doing that and find something different.
Unless you're charging 10.
I mean, maybe. I don't think so, but maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And like, you know, figure out what your clients are paying you and add that up, and, you know, find out how much your clients have paid you on average during the time that they're with you. And that's how much you're leaving on the table effectively. If someone stays with 6 months and you're charging them $200 a month, that's $1,200. Every person you don't contact, you might be leaving $1,200 of, you know, money on the table. So for what that's worth, I think that was what turned it for me, of like, oh fuck, you know, the average lifetime value for my clients was oftentimes $32,000 and some change. So I was really motivated to follow up, and really motivated to make sure that people had the means, and obviously like give the people that weren't good service and ask for recommendations if they thought anyone else might be a good fit, or if they thought I could help anyone else. And that's how I built my leads list. Is if I offered somebody something and they couldn't partake, then I'd ask them if they thought that there was anyone else that might value the hour that we had spent together or whatever. And it just grew and compounded over time. But I had to get in there every week and do those things and deliver, I would say, decent service.
Follow up with those leads. Stop leaving money on the table. We appreciate you listening to Beyond the Pump today, where we break down the business of fitness and nutrition. Subscribe, rate, review, throw a question down the channel for us if you want us to break it down. And we appreciate you guys listening in today. See you next time.
Peace.